Assalamualaikum and very good day. My name is Muhammad Raizat. So today I'm going to present question 1 and 2 for lab 4. So for question 1, the question is before doing the soldering process, explain the things to pay attention to. So the first thing is to make sure the surfaces are clean, and the first stage in preparation for any soldering is to make sure that everything is clean. Make sure that any printed circuit board are clean and that the copper surface is not contaminated. Second is to remove surface oxidation. The wire leads to conventional components oxidize with time. It can help to scrape off any oxide. This can easily be accomplished by gripping the lid lightly with a pair of pliers and gently pulling the components so that the surface rub against the pliers and the oxide layer is removed. Alright, so the third one is thin the soldering iron bit. It is necessary to ensure that the soldering iron bit is properly thinned or wetted. The last one is clean the soldering iron bit. It is also important that the soldering iron is clean. The bits on the soldering iron soon get dirty with spent flux residue, and this needs to be removed. Most soldering iron stands come with a place for a wet sponge. So for the next question is, what is the equipment that used to perform the soldering process? Basically, there are 4 equipment. The first one is a soldering iron. A soldering iron is a handle tools that provide to heat sources needed to melt the solder. These tools are typically like a pencil-like in shape and consist of several different parts that work together to form a comfortable, practical, and easy to use tool. It is used for heated the soldering paste. So the next one is a solder paste. A solder paste looks like a grey putty-like material. It will be used to join the various lid of chip packages to connection ends on a PCB. So the third one is a soldering flux. A solder flux is a purifying agent. When it comes to soldering, flux serve 3 different purposes simultaneously, making it an essential tool to have on hand for any project. And the last one is a PCB. The PCB is our circuit board. All the soldering will apply on the PCB. It is because it can connect all those components on the PCB. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Muhammad Ali Fizat bin Nazan dari Grup 7 Section 3. Sini saya akan menerangkan soalan 3, iaitu describe the things to pay attention to when installing components on a PCB. Yang pertama, kita perlu pay attention kepada spacing of our component. This is because when placing component too close to one another, it can cause various issue macam shorting, heating dan routing akan jadi lebih susah. Yang kedua, kita kena pay attention terhadap condition PCB kita before installing the component. Sini kita perlu memastikan PCB kita dalam keadaan yang bersih supaya kita dapat menjalankan soldering component dengan senang. Jadi caranya ialah kita perlu bersihkan PCB tersebut dengan abrasive rubber block or cleaning solvent to get rid of any grease, oxidation and other contamination. Yang ketiga ialah by making sure that our soldering iron tip is at the right temperature. This is to ensure that our soldering tip will not get too hot, that the solder wire will not make contact to the PCB. So untuk mengelakkan perkara ni, kita perlu set temperature-nya lebih awal dan menggunakan soldering flux. Adalah soalan keempat ialah 3D view of our circuit. So ni adalah top view dan ni back view kami. Ini adalah routing copper wire dalam lab nanti yang patut kami buat. So kita perlu memastikan tak ada yang terlalu dekat, shorting atau yang coppernya hilang-hilang. Dan soalan kelima ialah ada alternatif selain manual soldering. Yang pertama ialah wave soldering. Wave soldering ialah a large scale soldering process that uses molten solder to make a connection to the PCB component. This process is done by running a PCB over a tank of molten solder in which it is pumped like a standing wave. As the PCB make contact with the molten solder, the components become soldered to the PCB, creating a reliable mechanical electrical connection. Yang kedua ialah reflow soldering. Proses ini dia menggunakan sejenis paste, iaitu a sticky mixture of solder and flux. So proses ni, dia first letakkan paste tersebut dekat komponennya. Lepas tu dia akan heat PCB tersebut dalam oven, dan solder paste tu akan reflow balik ke kontak dia. So jadi dia akan membuat permanent solder joint melalui heating tersebut. Jadi itu daripada saya. Terima kasih.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hafiz Izzuddin Iskandar, and I'm from Group 7. I'm here to talk about our Lab 4, about the discussion in this lab that we got. In this lab, we already got, as you can see in the video, already shown in the PDF file. Students learn about the soldering of the component to the PCB as theoretically, because we cannot enter the lab due to the COVID. And then we know that soldering is a process of forming metal to a metal joint using a solder equipment. That joint is for the formation of metal and solder. Soldering process actually is to secure the component to the PCB and to make the conductivity between two metal and in a place. Students also learn about the equipment, which is the solder, the solder, the cleaner, and the flux. Also the flux. Okay. The solder is a metal that used to to be in the is in the middle of the component and the PCB. Okay. Now I want to talk about the flux. The flux is used to prepare the surface of the conductor prior to the soldering. That a flux is, as we can say, it's make our soldering process more easier. It's like a liquid chemical, but it's not a liquid. It's more like oily. That make it's easier to solder the component with the PCB. We students also learn about the safety in the lab, which is the exposure of the lead that can ingest and the fume that can give us a dangerous chemical, and also the soldering, which is the soldering process, which is the heat from the solder equipment is very high. And then lastly, I want to talk about the technique, the tips and the technique of the solder and the desoldering. In the lab sheet, they is show us about the how which angle that we can use to solder the solder to soldering the solder with much better, and let's use the method solder method. Next is the conclusion that we conclude from this lab. Our group is conclude that we student cannot enter the lab, but we theoretically know how to solder the component, because before this I've done uh, before this lab I've done with some of my friends, and it's about the safe, and we learn about the safe and the danger when do the soldering of the PC with component to the PCB. And also students know how to desolder the PCB and the PCB, and desolder the solder from the PCB to detach the component and the PCB. And then lastly, students know how the safety works in the lab theoretically, uh, when we work with the solder and all the dangerous equipment that are in the lab. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.